Well, hello everyone, and you join us in the all-new Audi SQ6 e-Tron Sportback Quattro first edition. It's got a lot of names, but this car is really cool, very sporty, very dynamic, and actually quite fun to drive around for an EV, and an all-new EV from Audi at that. If you haven't checked out our full tour and review on this vehicle, definitely go have a watch at that as we take a more in-depth look at all the features of this car. But of course on this, we're going to take it for a drive and see how it is out on the road and to live with on a day-to-day basis. So we're about to head off, and one thing to notice is the steering wheel does not unlock actually until you put the vehicle into either reverse or drive. So popping into reverse there, the steering wheel now unlocks, which is pretty interesting. And popping it into reverse, we can see our reversing camera right here, which is crazy huge. Expands over this entire display over here. It's really quite big, and you have a great 360 view that you can kind of zoom in on all these different angles if you do need to. We also are getting a park assist function here, so if you press our camera park assist icon over here, you can access your park view as well, which is really cool, and that actually works quite well in this vehicle. You can adjust some of your settings over here. I will though note for 2026, the 2026 model year, we're going to get some even more advanced parking features coming on this vehicle, so stay tuned for that, and next year when we get a chance to review this vehicle once again. Now we're going to start off this drive in one of the many drive modes. In balance, there's also a pure comfort mode, but I think balance is a little bit of a better comfort mode, blending all of the different stuff with this vehicle. And it has quite a lot of stuff to blend. We have an adaptive air suspension here. We also do have adaptive dampers as well, and this one is rocking winter tires, as it is technically sort of winter now over here in New York, but they're actually pretty quiet. And this vehicle, just like in the A6 we were in just last month, is also incredibly quiet on this cabin over here. It's really quiet in this cabin. So quiet that you honestly can't tell how fast they're going in some scenarios because it's that quiet on the highway, which we'll get to experience. Steering is very light, but it is noticeably stiffer than the A6 or even a regular Q6, as this is an SQ6. And if you want it to really feel like a proper SQ6, you have to put it in the dynamic mode. That is where you're going to be able to really extract all the potential of this vehicle, and it really does transform. Around town here, it's very smooth and gentle. It feels like an Audi in that aspect. And like I mentioned, we have three settings of recuperation, so I can quickly adjust this with my paddle shifters here. So that's level 2 right there. You can see our interactive light bar here does some cool stuff with the blinkers on this Prestige model. And the turning radius on these cars, for having, an all-wheel drive system and being a little bit longer than even a Q5, is actually quite nice. I'm going to pop it into B mode here to give you an example of our full force regenerative braking, one pedal drive style. It is quite aggressive, that you do have to get used to it, but this vehicle primarily is using regen in almost all cases. Even coming to a full stop, it's using a lot of regen, so that's good. That helps you to get a lot of energy back into the battery, and this vehicle has strong regen. You can even see there sometimes it'll say brake cleaning function active. I think that just applies the brake pads every now and then to make sure there's no any buildup of anything or rust or stuff on the brakes, since they're not used that much. Popping it back into drive, we're going to pop it quickly into our dynamic mode here. The vehicle is going to lower. We actually get a sport sound as well, which I think is quite snazzy. We'll get a quick acceleration up this hill. Have a listen to this sound. Whoa, that thing has some serious thrust. Now, we can get up to 510 horsepower when we're in the launch mode on a day-to-day driving basis. And pretty much all normal scenarios, though, it's around the 480 horsepower range, which isn't the biggest jump up over the Q6, but the most reason you're getting this particular SQ6 model is the styling upgrades, as well as the handling and overall chassis and dynamic upgrades that you're going to get with this vehicle. That makes it feel a lot more stiffer, sportier. You're going to have the sportier seats as well. So there are things that are unique to this model still. If I pop it right back into dynamic mode, just again, I'm going to show you how much quicker the steering is in the vehicle. It is significantly and noticeably quicker. The steering weight itself is a lot heavier. The whole car feels a lot more on edge, a lot more twitchier. Throttle is just thunderous. And I like how in this augmented heads-up display over here, the speed just increases in size as you get deeper into that accelerator pedal, which is really kind of cool. But it is definitely an experience. I will give Audi credit on that point. They've created a unique vehicle. And what's also cool about this is that the rear motors make like 200 horsepower, almost more than the front motors. So that's a nice thing to have on here, is a rear biased electric vehicle. It makes it feel a little more fun in the corners, a little more natural and dynamic as well. Honestly, going through that corner and stepping on it a little bit, you kind of feel the rear end step out just a little bit. Very natural and very un-Audi-like. You don't really feel like there's understeer in this vehicle. It's actually quite interesting. So they've done a great job tuning this chassis, I have to say. And remember, this is a co-developed chassis with Porsche. So we have Porsche and Audi both working on this architecture here, and I think they've done some good stuff here. So there's a lot of performance potential to extract out of this vehicle. Coming to a full stop here, we do have auto brake hold. So if you push your foot down deep into the brake, it holds the vehicle if you're not using the B mode, which automatically does that when you come to a stop. Let's pop it back into balance mode for a second. See, the vehicle quickly rises back up out of its lower dynamic setting there. And the world is really isolated. If I just lower my window for a second, everything gets a bit more louder, but inside of this cabin, it's just so unreally quiet. It's a really a surreal and luxurious experience that I think Audi has really mastered with this premium platform electric architecture here. And you can kind of see what's going on with this virtual cockpit here, the newer style one that we have on this 2025 model. It kind of shows all the lane markings around you. It shows the vehicles around you as well, but I think might have to wait out for 2026 for once we get our full map back and all the other fun stuff you can do with this, because I think that's the real Audi specialty there, is those really nice, gorgeous displays that they used to do. Back in dynamic mode, we're going to head out onto the highway here. A little bit of a sense of the acceleration thrust in this vehicle, which is quite intense. Not as intense as you may expect for, around an $80,000 plus price tag, but okay, maybe it is pretty intense. It's fast. It's a very quick vehicle, but that does come at a cost of your range. That will decrease just a bit with this additional power and using that power a lot every now and then. But this thing is not slow, not super quick, but it definitely has enough thrust to throw you back in your seat just a little bit, which is always a fun experience in these vehicles. On the highway, we're going to pop it into efficiency mode just for a second here. Lots of drive modes, and like I mentioned, you can actually have your entire digital light bar up there and all the interior lighting be paired with these drive modes, so it'll turn green, but I don't have that on right now, so I'll just use my voice assistant. Hey Audi, change my ambient light color to green.
Okay, I am setting the interior light to green.
I almost prefer this, actually. It's quite cool. But on the highway, it is actually really an isolating experience. So as I mentioned, this vehicle has so much sound insulation, sound deadening all around it. It's a really very German cabin in that aspect. It feels like it's built almost for an Autobahn for really high speeds, and high speeds it can do very well. You can be cruising on the highway at 65, 70, 75 miles an hour, whatever it is that's legal in your area, and you honestly will have to keep looking at your speed because you won't realize how quick you're going. And this one has winter tires on it as well, which are somehow incredibly isolated and quiet. I'm not sure if it's the tire itself. These are Bridgestone Blizzak tires, but we also have the air suspension, the adaptive dampers, and even on this SQ6 model, it doesn't feel overly stiff. It doesn't feel really harsh to you either. So they did a really fantastic job tuning this chassis, especially for highway driving. It's really good, really good job, Audi, on that front here. Otherwise, what's not my favorite thing is the whole adaptive cruise setup on the system. Now, I will have to mention, for 2026, they're getting all the fun stuff that I wish this car had. But for a 2025 all-new model, for it not to have stuff like auto lane change or hands-off systems, which sure, you may not use, but every single competitor offers it. It's kind of silly that they don't have that for 2025, but it's now coming for 2026. So I guess I can't complain too much. All you have to do is just wait another model year. But to activate your kind of adaptive systems here, you use your little Audi Volkswagen Group stock on the lower left side of the steering wheel column here. Pull it towards you. You kind of set your speed, which you want there, to your highway set speed there, and you kind of double tap it twice and it kind of gets going right there, which is nice. So it does work. We have some kind of stuff going on in our heads-up display over here, showing us our distance control, and on our cockpit up front here, it's showing us all the cars around you and stuff. But I have to say, and I experienced this in the A6 as well, it isn't the best system on curves. So yes, this is a hands-on system, but you really do got to keep your hands on it. It doesn't do the best going around corners. I would say it's pretty fine in general scenarios, but there's been some cases where I think it's had a little trouble reading all the different lane lines, and it was kind of getting a little scurrying in some cases. So that just, you know, tells you that this really is a hands-on system still in this 2025 SQ6 e-Tron Sportback. And it's easy though to adjust your distance from this little dial over here. You have a few different adjustments there. It gives you this huge number icon on our virtual augmented reality heads-up display up there, which is kind of cool to see. And then if you do need to take manual control, that is also really easy. Just get onto the accelerator, take control over steering, and you really are just fine like that. But otherwise, it's just a good old basic system. I do love these graphics on here. They are very clear and pretty accurate at reading different types of vehicles, even though it thought that pickup truck with a trailer was a semi-truck, for example. But it is cool that it is showing us that it knows that there are vehicles around it and all that fun stuff there. And turning it off, it's pretty easy. You just kind of get rid of that stock there, and that's about it. But this is a pretty interesting vehicle. I think it's fun to drive. I'm not too sure who's going to be purchasing this SQ6 over a Q6 in the current moment. You can also get the Q5 and SQ5, which obviously are all gas vehicles, which look very similar to this car, but obviously are just pure gas, and very similarly sized as well, even though this is a 6 level in the Audi lineup. It's all a little bit confusing right now as they're kind of in a model year change, but this is really, you know, just an EV version, I would say, of the Q6 size of vehicle, even though this is a totally different architecture underneath. Confusing, right? Coming over to this exit ramp here, using some regen from our brake paddles over here, from our paddle shifters. So we have level 1, level 2. I really like playing with this, actually. It's actually quite fun. And this piece of road over here, and every review we go over, is really rough, really rough. This thing handles it well. It soaks up a lot of the bumps. It's a little bit noticeably stiffer, even in the most basic modes, versus the A6 with that air suspension. That one's obviously more comfort focused. Same thing with the regular Q6. That's gonna be a little bit more comfort focused. But this one is just a little tiny bit noticeably stiffer than that vehicle. Oh, acceleration is wild. You really do have to get your foot into that accelerator pedal though to kind of get it going. It's not just a instant throttle response like I've experienced in the BMW EVs. This one, you really gotta get into it and you really pick up speed a little bit more naturally in that aspect, which I guess could be nicer for some people when they're driving around. But for this case, I'm gonna keep it in more calmer mode, as it looks like we're gonna be entering some traffic. Now, as we do enter some traffic, this is a great opportunity now to test out our 3D audio system here with the headrest speakers around both the front driver and passenger headrests, which you can adjust on or off individually in the settings, which I think is really cool, as well as a whole bunch of other great settings in here. It's a pretty good audio system. Nothing super top tier, I would say. It's definitely up there. It's not my favorite though. I've heard some other higher end, even Bowers & Wilkins or Bang & Olufsen audio systems that can be a little bit more deeper and fuller throughout their whole sound range, but this is pretty good, I have to say, overall. I've enjoyed listening to it this week. Let's throw on our test track here, and as I mentioned, for our volume controls, we do have a physical volume control knob down here which we can adjust with and pause or skip tracks with, but it's a little bit far of reach. Otherwise, I'll just use my haptic touch slider here, which I could actually physically press if I wanted to. also bringing it to a lower volume and muting it here. Pretty good audio system. One thing I do like about this is that it's really always clear throughout your whole volume range. And unlike the A6 we had, there's no rattles. That one kind of rattled a little bit in this area over here when I increased the volume sound to its higher or max levels. This one's a little bit more consistent and clear in that aspect, so that's really nice to see. And the 3D effect honestly isn't super noticeable, especially with these headrest speakers. I thought it was going to be more noticeable. These headrest speakers really come into handy when you're using the built-in either Audi navigation system or using a phone call, as it isolates the sound to just me as a driver or just the passenger or something, for example. So like the rear passengers aren't being blasted with that audio. So that's a really cool touch, I think, in that aspect there. But otherwise, guys, living with this vehicle over the course of a week as we enter traffic, I'll just kind of throw on my adaptive cruise system here, as we are going to be sitting in traffic for some time. I actually really enjoyed this car. It's really fun to drive. It's great on highways. It's great on longer distances as well. It charges really quick. I got 7% to 80% state of charge in 28 minutes at a really fast charger. The range isn't super impressive, but that's what the Q6 or an A6 is really for in this vehicle. So this one is really just your higher performance model. If you want that extra boost power, you want the Audi S experience, those nice upgraded sports seats and all of that fun stuff, that's what this one's going to be here for you. But in terms of packaging and tech and feature stuff, this one is not going to be getting anything really crazy different other than, like I mentioned, that power upgrade versus a Q6. So you may want to look at that one as well. And there's a lot of more Audi EVs coming down the road, so definitely keep an eye out for those. And of course, once we get our hands on those, we will definitely review them for you guys. As always, thank you for joining me on yet another tour and review over at Allcarnews, and stay tuned for more coming soon. Cheers.